Title: My Scorpio boss fired me, but he forgot we always sting back twice as hard. The crisp Chicago air, usually a refreshing balm, felt like a biting reprimand against Alex Miller's cheek as he exited the Naperville Metro station that late September morning in 2002. His well-worn briefcase, a testament to years of dedicated service, felt heavier than usual. The sun, a pale disk above the skyscrapers of the Loop, cast long, distorted shadows that seemed to mock his unshakable routine. For 12 years, Alex had navigated this exact path. From his quiet, tree-lined street in Naperville, through the familiar hum of the Metro, and finally into the gleaming, impersonal lobby of the Apex Marketing Solutions building on Wacker Drive. At 36, Alex was the epitome of reliable. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't a corporate climber, but he was the bedrock upon which Apex had built its reputation for meticulous client management, particularly with its crown jewel client, Global Tech Innovations. His cubicle, nestled in a sea of beige partitions on the 17th floor, was a testament to his methodical nature. Stacks of organized files, a well-used Rolodex, and a single framed photo of his wife, Sarah, and their 7-year-old daughter, Lily, grinning gap-toothed from a summer day at Navy Pier. His life was a carefully constructed mosaic of work, family, and the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. Mornings started with Lily's animated stories over bowls of frosted flakes, followed by Sarah's gentle reminder to eat a proper breakfast before he rushed out the door. His commute was his sacred time, spent poring over industry reports, jotting notes for upcoming presentations, or simply enjoying the rhythmic clack of the train on the tracks. At Apex, Alex was the go-to guy for anything complex, anything requiring a deep dive into data or a nuanced understanding of client needs. He prided himself on anticipating problems, on delivering beyond expectations. His colleagues, from the junior account executives to the seasoned creative directors, respected him. Even his direct manager, Patricia, a pragmatic woman who had seen countless corporate reshuffles, often deferred to his judgment. This stability, this predictable rhythm, was not boring. It was the foundation of his quiet contentment. It allowed Sarah to pursue her part-time work as a librarian and ensured Lily could attend her ballet classes and summer camps without a second thought. Their small but cozy 2-story house in Naperville, with its blooming rose bushes and creaking porch swing, felt like an unassailable fortress. Until now. The first tremor in Alex's carefully ordered world arrived 2 months prior, in late July, with the thunderous arrival of Robert Thorne. A slick, impeccably dressed man in his late 40s, Thorne had been brought in as the new Senior Vice President of Client Relations, a position seemingly created out of thin air, directly above Patricia and, by extension, Alex. Thorne, a self-proclaimed visionary with a penchant for corporate buzzwords and an unsettlingly intense gaze, wasted no time asserting his authority. He held endless, meandering meetings where he spoke for an hour about synergy and paradigm shifts while offering no tangible strategy. He would swoop into Alex's carefully prepared client meetings, interjecting with half-baked ideas, subtly altering presentations Alex had meticulously crafted, and, most gallingly, taking credit for Alex's successful problem-solving in front of clients. Alex, ever the team player, initially dismissed it as a new executive finding his footing, a temporary power play. Patricia, however, had a more jaded view. "Watch your back, Alex," she'd warned him over lukewarm coffee in the break room. "Thorne's not here to build, he's here to conquer." The air thickened with a quiet dread over the ensuing weeks. Thorne began to systematically dismantle Alex's influence. He rerouted critical client communications through himself, excluded Alex from high-level strategic discussions, and started to assign Alex menial tasks, despite his senior role. Alex's protests to Patricia were met with resigned shrugs. "His office is wired directly to the CEO's ear, Alex. There's nothing I can do." The humiliation was a slow, burning ember. Alex would return home, the familiar ache of injustice settling deep in his bones, though he tried to shield Sarah and Lily from his growing anxieties. He'd force a smile, help Lily with her homework, and listen patiently as Sarah recounted her day. But his mind constantly replayed Thorne's latest slight, the subtle erosion of his professional standing. The climax of this insidious campaign came on a Tuesday morning, a day that would forever be etched in Alex's memory as the precise moment his world fractured. It was the final presentation for Global Tech Innovations' multi-million-dollar digital transformation project. A project Alex had nurtured from its nascent stage, poured countless nights into, and brought to the brink of a lucrative signing. He had developed the intricate strategy, overseen the design mock-ups, and personally negotiated key terms. Thorne had, naturally, inserted himself as the lead presenter for the crucial closing meeting. Alex sat in the polished conference room, a silent observer as Thorne, with a confident smirk, presented Alex's work as his own. He watched Thorne's hand gestures, the way he modulated his voice, the feigned expertise, and felt a cold dread spread through him. The Global Tech team, impressed, nodded along. As the meeting concluded and congratulations were exchanged, Thorne gestured for Alex to remain behind. The room emptied, leaving only the two men. Thorne leaned back in his chair, a predatory glint in his eyes. "Alex," he began, his voice devoid of warmth, "we need to talk about your future here." Alex braced himself. He expected a reprimand, a demotion, anything but the casual brutality that followed. "Apex is moving in a new direction," Thorne continued, his words like perfectly aimed darts. "A leaner, more agile structure. And frankly, your traditional approach doesn't quite fit our new vision. We're letting you go, effective immediately." The words hung in the air, a cruel, impossible echo. Alex felt a physical blow to his gut. "What?" he managed, his voice a strangled whisper. "But the Global Tech project, I built that." Thorne merely smiled, a chilling, shark-like grin. "Precisely, and now I've finalized it. Your contribution was valuable, of course, in its time. But times change. Security will escort you out. Your final check and severance will be mailed. Good luck, Alex." He stood up, as if the conversation was an inconvenient interruption, and dismissed Alex with a wave of his hand. The shock was a numbing agent, but beneath it, a volcanic rage began to churn. Alex walked out of the conference room, past the surprised glances of his colleagues, his mind a chaotic maelstrom of disbelief and betrayal. Patricia, seeing his ashen face, rushed over. "Alex, what happened?" He could only shake his head, unable to form words. A burly security guard, a man Alex had often exchanged pleasantries with, appeared beside him, his expression one of regret. "Mr. Miller, I'm sorry, I'm just doing my job." The walk through the office, past his own cubicle, past the faces of people he had worked with for over a decade, felt like a public execution. His briefcase, already packed for the day, was all he was allowed to take. He left behind his Rolodex, his meticulously organized files, his photo of Sarah and Lily. The elevator descent felt like a plunge into an abyss. As the doors opened to the street level, the September air, once merely biting, now felt like a suffocating shroud. He was adrift, unmoored, discarded. The metro ride home was a blur of unshed tears and burning indignation. He clutched his briefcase, the leather digging into his palm, a poor substitute for the anger he longed to unleash. How could this happen? How could 12 years of loyalty, of dedication, be wiped away with a callous wave of a hand? He thought of Sarah, of Lily, of the mortgage, the ballet classes. Panic mingled with a cold, hard resolve. He wasn't just angry, he was violated. He had given Apex his prime years, his intellect, his unwavering commitment, and they had let a snake like Thorne cast him out like refuse, all for the sake of one man's greedy assent. He arrived home, the house unnervingly quiet, Lily still at school. Sarah, seeing his face as he walked through the door, knew instantly. Her calm composure fractured as he recounted the humiliation, the injustice. "He just fired you. Like that, after everything?" Her voice trembled with disbelief, then a shared anger. The initial hours were a torrent of despair, of what-ifs and how-could-he's. Alex paced the living room, a caged animal, the weight of their financial precariousness pressing down on him. Sarah, ever practical, started pulling out their financial statements, trying to budget, to find solutions. But Alex couldn't focus on logistics. His mind was consumed by Thorne, by the sheer audacity of his betrayal. The Scorpio, scorned, began to remember its sting. As the raw emotional wound slowly scabbed over, a new, chilling clarity emerged. Alex wasn't just a victim, he was a meticulous record keeper. It was a habit born of necessity, of dealing with complex, multi-layered projects and often shifting client demands. He didn't just work on a project. He documented every step, every decision, every email exchange, every meeting note. He had always been wary of the paper trail concept, ensuring he had his own independent documentation. This wasn't out of paranoia, but professionalism. He had a series of external hard drives at home, simple USB drives common in 2002, where he habitually backed up his work files at the end of each week, a personal archiving system for his projects. He called it his professional diary. It contained not just his presentations and reports, but also the raw data, the preliminary drafts, the internal communications that showed his intellectual property, his true contribution. More importantly, it contained evidence of Thorne's meddling, his attempts to subtly shift credit, his vague, unachievable promises to clients that Alex had secretly flagged as potential liabilities. In the days following his dismissal, as he officially entered the ranks of the unemployed, the despair slowly transmuted into a simmering resolve. He retreated to his home office, a small, cluttered room originally intended as a guest bedroom, and began to sift through his digital archives. Hours turned into days. He found them, the original project proposals for global tech innovations, meticulously detailed, clearly authored by him. He found the early email threads with the global tech team, showing his direct involvement from day one. He found the internal Apex financial projections, before Thorne's optimistic revisions. And then he found something else, something far more insidious, buried deep in Thorne's revised budget proposals that Alex had been forced to sign off on. Thorne had systematically inflated key vendor costs for the global tech project by a subtle 5–7%. Amounts small enough to evade immediate scrutiny, but large enough to accrue into a significant sum over the life of the multi-million-dollar contract. Alex had questioned it at the time, but Thorne had brushed it off as negotiated higher rates, citing market fluctuations. Now, with a cold, detached clarity, Alex realized Thorne wasn't just stealing credit. He was siphoning funds, defrauding both Apex and global tech. This wasn't just corporate arrogance, it was criminal. His hidden advantage was not just his meticulous record-keeping, but his deep understanding of corporate finance and his network. He had always been the quiet, observant type. He remembered a former Apex senior accountant, David Chen, who had left Apex 2 years prior, disillusioned by an unethical executive. David was now working for a financial investigative firm. Alex also remembered a journalist, Elena Petrova, from the Chicago Business Journal, who had interviewed him for an article on digital marketing trends a few years back. She was known for her investigative pieces on corporate misconduct. Alex saw the pathway to a countersting. The key was to make the information public and damning without it tracing back to him, at least not initially. He needed to be the ghost in the machine, the silent instigator. The thought of exposing Thorne filled him with a potent, almost intoxicating mix of dread and exhilaration. He wasn't just getting even. He was preventing future victims, protecting Apex from a potentially catastrophic scandal down the line, and, most importantly, reclaiming his dignity. The plan began to coalesce, meticulously plotted, much like one of his complex client strategies. He spent 2 weeks cross-referencing documents, creating a compelling, undeniable dossier. It included original budget sheets, revised ones with Thorne's handwritten notes, and a clear breakdown of the inflated costs and the projected siphoning. He even found discrepancies in travel expenses Thorne had filed. He then created a burner email account, untraceable, and anonymized his documents, converting them to uneditable PDFs to prevent any digital fingerprints. His first move was a carefully worded, anonymous email to David Chen. He didn't reveal his identity, simply stated he was a former Apex employee with concerns about financial irregularities related to the Global Tech Innovations project, under the supervision of Robert Thorne, and attached a small, tantalizing sample of the evidence. David, intrigued, replied, asking for more. Alex, through the anonymous account, provided just enough to pique his professional curiosity, suggesting David look into certain vendor contracts Thorne had overseen. This was the first domino. Next, Alex turned his attention to Alina Petrova. He sent her a similar, anonymous email highlighting unethical business practices and potential fraud at Apex involving a senior executive and their flagship client. He attached a more comprehensive set of documents, but still not the full dossier. He included a key piece of information: the exact date and time Thorne was scheduled to receive a major corporate bonus and a promotion for the successful global tech deal, which was in 3 weeks. He knew Thorne would want to bask in the glory, making the fall all the more spectacular. Finally, he compiled a physical package. A flash drive, then, relatively new tech, but available, containing the entire comprehensive dossier, along with printed copies of key documents and a detailed, anonymous letter outlining Thorne's schemes. He packaged it discreetly and mailed it via a public mailbox in a different suburb, several towns away, addressed to the CEO of Global Tech Innovations, a man named Mr. Anderson, whom Alex knew valued integrity above all else. He included a note: "For your eyes only. A former Apex employee, concerned about the future of our partnership, felt compelled to provide this. Due diligence is recommended." He chose Mr. Anderson because he knew the Global Tech CEO was fiercely protective of his company's finances and reputation, and Thorne's fraud directly impacted Global Tech. The following 3 weeks were an agonizing wait. Alex continued his job search, projecting an outward calm, but inside, he was a coiled spring. He watched the news, devoured the Chicago Business Journal, and tracked the stock prices of Apex and Global Tech with a hawk's eye. Sarah, though still worried, noticed a subtle change in him, a quiet determination that replaced the initial despair. "You're up to something, aren't you?" she'd asked one evening, a knowing glint in her eye. He just smiled, a hint of his old mischievous self returning. "Just preparing for a new chapter." The first sign came in the Chicago Business Journal. A small, but pointed, article by Alina Petrova, titled "Whispers of Discrepancies at Apex Marketing," hinted at unnamed sources raising questions about accounting practices and unusual vendor relationships related to a large, recently closed tech contract. It didn't name Thorne directly, but the implications were clear. Alex felt a surge of adrenaline. The fuse was lit. Then the true fireworks. 2 days later, a headline screamed: "Global Tech Innovations launches internal investigation into Apex marketing contract following allegations of fraud." The article, again by Alina Petrova, detailed a whistleblower complaint received by Global Tech's CEO, presenting compelling evidence of systematic overbilling and potential financial misconduct attributed to a senior executive at Apex. Robert Thorne's name wasn't explicitly mentioned, but the context made it undeniable. The article quoted Mr. Anderson, the Global Tech CEO, stating, "We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness and will pursue every avenue to ensure full transparency and accountability." The fallout was immediate and catastrophic for Thorne. Apex's stock dipped. Internally, a firestorm erupted. Global Tech, furious at the breach of trust, immediately froze all payments and threatened to pull their entire multi-million-dollar account. Apex, desperate to salvage their reputation and their most valuable client, launched a frantic internal audit. David Chen, having already been alerted by Alex's anonymous tip, was reportedly brought in as an external consultant to assist Global Tech's forensic accounting team. The day Thorne was supposed to receive his bonus and promotion was the day the full sting landed. News broke that Robert Thorne had been released from his duties at Apex Marketing Solutions, effective immediately, citing irreconcilable differences regarding business ethics. The euphemism was paper-thin. A follow-up article by Petrova, citing sources close to the investigation, detailed how Thorne had systematically inflated vendor invoices and funneled the excess into shell companies, a scheme that could potentially lead to criminal charges. The article subtly acknowledged the meticulous internal documentation that allowed the rapid unearthing of the scheme, a silent nod to Alex's thoroughness. It also mentioned the critical role played by a concerned former employee who provided the initial leads. Alex watched the news reports from his living room, a quiet, profound satisfaction settling over him. He saw Thorne's professional life unravel in real time, the man's carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of his own avarice. The Scorpio, indeed, had stung back, and twice as hard. The consequences for Thorne were severe. Not only was his career destroyed, but Apex was reportedly pursuing legal action to recover the stolen funds, and the FBI had quietly opened a preliminary inquiry. His reputation was in tatters, his name synonymous with corporate fraud. For Alex, the immediate aftermath was a period of transition. The job market, even in 2002, was tough, but the vindication was a powerful elixir. He wasn't just unemployed. He was an anonymous corporate savior. He knew his own integrity remained intact. Leveraging his vast network and his now sharpened sense of injustice, he decided against returning to the corporate grind immediately. Instead, he started his own small consulting firm, Miller and Associates, focusing on ethical business practices and project management, ironically utilizing the very same meticulous record-keeping skills that had brought Thorne down. His first few clients came through old colleagues, people who admired his work ethic and knew his quiet competence. Sarah was his biggest supporter, helping him set up the home office, managing the nascent bookkeeping, and reminding him of his strength. Months later, as winter yielded to spring and Lily's laughter echoed through their blooming Naperville backyard, Alex received an anonymous package in the mail. Inside, a single, crisp, unsigned letter. "Thank you for doing the right thing. Apex is slowly recovering. Justice was served." It was accompanied by a check for a substantial amount, marked consulting fee pro bono work. Alex smiled. He knew it was from a grateful Apex board, a quiet acknowledgement of his role in cleaning house. He folded the check, a symbol not just of financial relief, but of the immense power of resilience and the quiet, potent sting of the wronged. He looked out at his family, bathed in the soft afternoon sun, and knew, with absolute certainty, that some scars healed into strength, and some stings, though painful, were ultimately transformative. His future, unburdened by corporate deceit, looked brighter than ever.